Leo, this is crazy, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. We can't do this. I know, he replied, his voice filled with pain. But I need to know, Emma. I need to know if there's something real between us. My pulse was beating, and I felt tears trying to pour over. I couldn't do this. I couldn't hurt our family like this. But the fact was, there was a part of me, a small, dark part, that wanted to see where this could go. I don't know, I finally answered, my voice scarcely audible. I don't know what to do. Just tell me the truth, Emma, he asked, his eyes pleading with me. Do you have any feelings for me? Anything at all? I stared down at our clasped hands, my mind racing. I knew what to say, that I should tell him to leave, and that we should never discuss this again. But the words would not come. Instead, I found myself nodding and crying as I revealed the truth to both him and myself. Yes, I said softly, my voice shaking. Yes, I do. His expression of relief was palpable, and he gently squeezed my hand. Thank you for being honest with me. I understand this is not easy. I brushed away my tears, attempting to control my breathing. What do we do now? He stared at me with a conflicted gaze. I do not know, but I can't keep pretending that there's nothing between us. We need to sort this out, but we must be cautious. I nodded, feeling a deep sensation of dread coming over me. We cannot let anyone find out, Leo. It would destroy our family. I know, he admitted, his voice full of shame. But we can't ignore this either. The days that followed were among the hardest of my life. I tried to avoid being alone with Leo, focusing on work and ignoring my emotions. But it was impossible. Every time we were in the same room, the tension was palpable. Every glance, every inadvertent contact reminded me of the secret we were keeping. Then, one evening, after a particularly long workday, I received a message from Leo.
Can we speak? I need to see you.
My pulse raced as I read the message. I knew I should ignore it, should keep my distance, but the temptation was too powerful. I agreed and told him to meet me in the garden behind my parents' house, where we had spent so many summers as children. When I arrived, the garden was peaceful, the late evening light creating long shadows over the usual walkways and flower beds. Leo was already standing near the ancient oak tree where we used to play hide-and-seek. Emma, he said, his voice full of sorrow. I'm sorry for putting you in this position. I never wanted to hurt you, or our family, but I can't stop thinking about you. I can't go on like this without knowing if we could have something real. I looked up at him, my heart breaking. Leo, it's too late. We can't do this. It would destroy everything. I know, he answered, his voice shaking. But I can't walk away from you without knowing if we could have had something. Tears filled my eyes as I listened to him, my heart aching. Leo, I care about you too. But this isn't right. We have to keep things as they are. He reached out and took my hand, his touch warm and comforting. Emma, please. Just tell me that you feel something too. I glanced into his eyes for any indication of hesitation, but all I saw was sincerity. He meant every word, and it terrified me, because the truth was, I did feel something for him. But I couldn't betray our family like this. I couldn't live with the guilt. I'm sorry, Leo, I whispered, my voice trembling. But we can't do this. We have to let it go. He looked at me, his expression filled with pain and regret. I understand, he said softly, but I'll never forget you, Emma. With that, he leaned in and kissed me one last time, a kiss filled with all the emotions we couldn't express in words. And then he was gone, leaving me standing alone in the garden, my heart shattered into a million pieces. The days that followed were agonizing. I couldn't stop thinking about that kiss, about the way Leo had made me feel. But I knew it was wrong, knew that I couldn't let it happen again. I had to protect our family, even if it meant breaking my own heart in the process. But the longer I tried to push Leo out of my mind, the more difficult it became. The memory of that evening in the garden, the way he had looked at me, the way he had made me feel, it all haunted me, day and night. Then, one afternoon, I received a text from Leo. I'm leaving town for a while. I need to clear my head. Take care, Emma. I stared at the message, a mix of relief and sadness washing over me. I knew it was for the best, knew that we both needed space to heal and move on. But it didn't make it any easier. In the weeks that followed, I tried to focus on my work, on rebuilding my life without Leo in it. I spent more time with my friends, threw myself into new projects, and tried to find a sense of normalcy again. But the memory of what had happened between us lingered, a constant reminder of the line we had crossed. Eventually, Leo returned, and we saw each other at family gatherings, but things were never the same. The bond we had shared as children, the easy friendship we had once enjoyed, it was all gone, replaced by an unspoken tension that neither of us could ignore. As time passed, we both moved on, building separate lives and trying to put the past behind us. But the memory of that night in the garden, of the kiss we had shared, would always be with me. It was a secret I would carry with me forever, a reminder of the thin line between love and betrayal and the choices we make that define our lives. I never anticipated that a simple family reunion would become one of my life's most complex and emotionally intense experiences. At 28, I had established a nice routine, working as a graphic designer in Melbourne and living in a cozy apartment just outside the city. My life was stable, even predictable, and while I was content, there were times when I wished for something more exciting or unexpected. But I never imagined that excitement would take the form of a secret I'd keep for the rest of my life. My cousin Leo was a few years older than me. At 32, he was the family's golden boy, charming, prosperous, and devastatingly attractive. He had a way of making everyone feel special with his friendly smile and easygoing demeanor. We'd always been close, growing up in the same neighborhood and spending summers on our grandparents' farm. But as we got older, our paths diverged. I relocated to Melbourne to advance my profession, while Leo remained in our hometown to take over the family business. We still saw each other at family gatherings, but our once close relationship had deteriorated into a distant friendship. Everything changed at one of these gatherings, a late spring barbecue hosted by my parents. The weather was ideal, clear skies, a mild wind, and the aroma of cooked meat floating through the air. The entire family was present, laughing, eating, and catching up on one another's lives. I was sitting at a picnic table with some of my aunts and uncles, enjoying the warm sun on my face, when Leo approached and sat beside me. "Hey, Emma," he said, flashing me his familiar smile. "I haven't seen you in a long time. How is life in the big city?" "Busy as always," I replied, returning his smile. "But it's good to be home for a bit. How have you been?" Same old," he said with a shrug. "Running the business, trying to keep everything afloat. But it's good to have a break and be home with the family." We fell into easy conversation, reminiscing about our childhood, talking about our lives, and joking about the antics of our younger cousins. It felt good to reconnect, to be reminded of the bond we had shared for so many years. As the afternoon wore on, the family began to disperse, some heading inside to escape the heat, others going for a walk around the property. Leo and I stayed at the table, enjoying the peace that had settled over the garden. "You know," Leo continued after a while, his tone becoming more serious, "I've missed it. We don't get to spend much time together now." "I know," I replied, feeling a stab of shame. "I missed it too. Life simply becomes so busy, you know?" "Yeah," he responded, his eyes meeting mine. "But sometimes I wonder if we let the important things slip away, like our friendship. We used to be so close, and now, well, it feels like we're just strangers sometimes." I gazed at him, astonished by the vulnerability in his voice. "I didn't realize you felt that way." He shrugged, staring out at the garden. "I guess I've been thinking about it a lot lately, about how we grew apart, and how I wish we could go back to the way things were." I reached out and placed a hand on his arm, giving him a comforting smile. "We can, Leo. We are still family, and we can be close. It is not too late." He looked down at my hand, then up at me, with a little smile on his lips. "Thank you, Emma. That means a lot to me." For a minute, we sat in comfortable solitude, the only sound being the gentle rustling of the trees in the breeze. But then, something changed in the air between us. The silence became heavier, imbued with an underlying tension that I couldn't pinpoint. Leo's hand moved to cover mine, his touch gentle and steady. "You've always been there for me, Emma," he stated calmly. "Even when we weren't as close, I always knew I could count on you." "And you can," I said, my voice wavering slightly. There was something in the way he was staring at me, something that made my heart start to race. "You're my cousin, Leo. We've always been there for each other." His grip on my hand tightened ever so slightly, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "But it's more than that, isn't it?" he asked, his voice low and intense. "There has always been something unique between us. Have you ever felt it?" My breath froze in my throat as I peered into his eyes, seeing something I'd never seen before, something that thrilled and terrified me. "Leo, Don't lie to me, Emma," he said quietly, coming in closer. "I know you felt it, too. I see it in your eyes." I wanted to refute it, wanted to push him away, and tell him that he was incorrect. But the truth was that I felt it. We had always had an unspoken connection, something more than just a familial bond. But I had never allowed myself to accept it, let alone ponder what it could signify. "We can't do this," I said softly, my voice quivering. "You are my cousin, Leo. This is wrong." "I know it's wrong," he confessed, his voice full of regret. "But, Emma, I can't stop thinking about you. I've tried to push these feelings away, but they keep returning, and I can't ignore them any longer." My heart was racing in my chest, full of fear, guilt, and something else, something I didn't want to admit to myself. "Leo, we cannot. It would destroy our family." "I know," he replied, his tone softening. "But I can't walk away from this without knowing if you feel the same way." I stared at him, my head a jumble of conflicting ideas. This was incredibly wrong. But the way he looked at me and the sincerity in his voice was tough to ignore.